they began to sing this ballad. The pretty bird, the swallow, built her nest with care in the palace of the king. In the nest she reared up happily 2 of her little ones. A black, ugly-looking bird, however, came to the swallow's nest to mar her happiness and to kill her 2 little ones. And the ugly black bird succeeded in destroying the happiness of the poor little swallow. The little ones, however, although yet weak and unfledged, were saved, and, when they were grown up and able to fly, they came to look at the palace where their mother, the pretty swallow, had built her nest. This strange song the 2 minstrels sung so very sweetly that the king was quite charmed, and asked them the meaning of the words. Whereupon the 2 meanly dressed young men took off their hats, so that the rich tresses of their golden hair fell down over their shoulders, and the light glanced so brightly upon it that the whole hall was illuminated by the shining. They then stepped forward together, and told the king all that had happened to them and to their mother, and convinced him that they were really his own sons. The king was exceedingly angry when he heard all the cruel things his stepmother had done, and he gave orders that she should be burned to death. He then went with the 2 golden-haired princes to the miserable dungeon wherein his unfortunate wife had been confined so many years, and brought her once more into her beautiful palace. There, looking on her golden-haired sons, and seeing how much the king, their father, loved them, she soon forgot all her long years of misery. As to the king, he felt that he could never do enough to make amends for all the misfortunes his queen had lived through, and all the dangers to which his twin sons had been exposed. He felt that he had too easily believed the stories of the old queen, because he would not trouble himself to inquire more particularly into the truth or falsehood of the strange things she had told him. After all this mortification, and trouble, and misery, everything came right at last. So the king and his wife, with their golden-haired twins, lived together long and happily. This legend was written and contributed to Vuk Stefanović Karadžić by Prince Michel Abranovich III, who had heard it in his childhood from the lips of his nurse. The Christians of the Balkans usually make the sign of the cross before and after every meal. 3. A golden coin worth about 10s. 4. The apple is a symbolic gift, which a wooer offers to the maiden of his choice. 5. It is the custom with Serbians, for one of her brothers to present the bride to her wooer. 6. Beardless is used as the personification of craftiness and sharpness. 7. This and the remaining stories in this chapter are reprinted from Serbian folklore, by Madam C. Mijatović, by kind permission of M. Chetumijatović. Chapter 15, Some Serbian popular anecdotes. St. Peter and the Sand townsman went one day to the country to hunt and came at noon to the house of a peasant whom he knew. The man asked him to share his dinner, and while they were eating, the townsman looked around him and noticed that there was but little arable land to be seen. There were rocks and stones in abundance, however. Surprised at this, the townsman exclaimed, "In the name of all that is good, my friend, how on earth can you good people of this village exist without arable land, and whence these heaps of rocks and stones?" "It is, indeed, a great misfortune," answered the peasant. "People say that our ancestors heard from their forefathers that when our Lord walked on this earth, Saint Peter accompanied him carrying on his back a sack full of sand. Occasionally our Lord would take a grain of sand and throw it down to make a mountain, saying, 'May this grain multiply.' When they arrived here, Saint Peter's sack burst and half of its contents poured out in our village. Why, the Serbian people are poor. The nations of the world met together one day on the middle of the earth to divide between themselves the good things in life. First they deliberated upon the methods of procedure. Some recommended a lottery, but the Christians, well knowing that they, as the cleverest, would be able to obtain the most desirable gifts, and not wishing to be at the mercy of fortune, suggested, and the idea was instantly adopted by all, that each should express a wish for some good thing and it would be granted to him. The men of Italy were allowed to express their wish first, and they desired wisdom. The Britons said, "We will take the sea." The Turks, "And we will take fields." The Russians, "We will take the forests and mines." The French, "And we will have money and war." "And what about you Serbians?" asked the nations, "what do you wish for?" "Wait till we make up our mind," answered the Serbians, and they have not yet agreed upon their reply. The gypsies and the nobleman. A very rich and powerful nobleman was one day driving through his vast estates. From afar Fort Sagans one noted that he was alone, and greedily coveting his fine carriage horses, determined to deprive him of them. As the carriage approached, they rushed onto the road, respectfully took off their hats, knelt before him, and one of them began to speak, saying, "Oh, how happy we are to have an opportunity of manifesting to you, O most gracious Lord, our deep gratitude for the noble deeds and many acts of kindness with which your late and generous father used to overwhelm us. As we have no valuable presents to offer you, allow us to harness ourselves to your carriage and draw you home." The haughty nobleman, proud of his father's good deeds, was pleased to assent to this unusual form of courtesy. Two gypsies thereupon detached the horses, harnessed themselves to the carriage and drew it for some distance. Suddenly, however, they cut themselves loose and ran back to the two other rascals who by this time had got clear away with the horses. Why, the priest was drowned. A few peasants and a priest were once crossing a river. Suddenly a tempest arose and overturned the boat. All were good swimmers except the poor priest, and when the peasants regained their boat and righted it, which they did very soon, they approached the struggling preacher and called to him to give them his hand that they might save him, but he hesitated and was drowned. The peasants went to impart the sad news to the priest's widow who, hearing it, exclaimed, "What a pity! But had you offered him your hands, he would surely have accepted them, and thus his precious life would have been saved, for it was ever his custom to receive." The arrow from the other world. To a Turk and his wife halted in the shadow of a tree. The Turk went to the river to water his horse, and his wife remained to await his return. Just then an Arab passed by and saluted the Turkish woman, "Allah help you, noble lady." "May God aid you," she returned, "whence do you come?" "I come from the other world, noble lady." "As you have been in the other world, have you not, perchance, seen there my son Muyo, who died a few months ago?" "Oh, how could I help seeing him? He is my immediate neighbor." "Happy me! How is he, then?" "He is well, may God be praised. But he could stand just a little more tobacco and some more pocket money to pay for black coffee." "Are you going back again? And if so, would you be so kind as to deliver to him this purse with his parents' greetings?" The Arab took the money, protesting that he would be only too glad to convey so pleasant a surprise to the youth, and hurried away. Soon the Turk came back, and his wife told him what had transpired. He perceived at once that she had been victimized, and without stopping to reproach her, he mounted his horse and galloped after the Arab, who, observing the pursuit, and guessing at once that the horseman was the husband of the credulous woman, made all the speed that he could. There was a mill nearby, and making for it, the Arab rushed in and addressed the miller with, "For goodness sake, brother, fly. There is a Turkish horseman coming with drawn sword, he will kill you. I heard him say so and have hurried to warn you in time." The miller had no time to ask for particulars. He knew how cruel the Turks were, and without a word he dashed out of the mill and fled up the adjacent rocks. Meantime the Arab placed the miller's hat upon his own head and sprinkled flour copiously over his clothes, that he might look like a miller. No sooner was this done than the Turk came up. Alighting from his horse, he rushed into the mill and hurriedly asked the Arab where he had hidden the thief. The Arab pointed indifferently to the flying miller on the rock, whereupon the Turk requested him to take care of his horse while he ran and caught the swindler. When the Turk was gone some distance up the hill, our Arab brushed his clothes, swiftly mounted the horse and galloped away. The Turk caught the real miller, and demanded, "Where is the money you took from my wife, swindler?" The poor miller made the sign of the cross 3 and said, "God forbid. I never saw your noble lady, still less did I take her money." He asked the Arab where he had hidden the thief. After about half an hour of futile discussion, the Turk was convinced of the miller's innocence, and returned to where he had left his horse. But lo! There was no sign of a horse. He walked sadly back to his wife, and she, seeing that her husband had no horse, asked in surprise, "Where did you go, and what became of your horse?" The Turk replied, "You sent money to our darling son, so I thought I had better send him the horse that he need not go on foot in the other world." A trade before everything. Once upon a time a king set out in his luxurious pleasure galley accompanied by his queen and a daughter. They had proceeded a very little way from the shore when a powerful wind drove the galley far out to sea, where at last it was dashed upon a barren rock. Fortunately there was a small boat upon the galley, and the king, being a good sailor, was able to launch this frail bark, and he rescued his wife and daughter from the waves. After long tossing and drifting, good fortune smiled upon the wanderers. They began to see birds and floating leaves, which indicated that they were approaching dry land. And, indeed, they soon came in sight of shore, and, as the sea was now calm, were able to land without further adventure. But, alas, the king knew no trade, and had no money upon his person. Consequently he was forced to offer his services as a shepherd to a rich landowner, who gave him a hut and a flock of sheep to tend. In these idyllic and simple conditions they lived contentedly for several years, undisturbed by regrets for the magnificence of their past circumstances. One day the only son of the ruler of that strange country lost his way while riding in the neighborhood after a fox, and presently he beheld the beautiful daughter of our shepherd. No sooner did his eyes fall upon the maiden than he fell violently in love with her, and she was not unwilling to receive the protestations of undying affection which he poured into her ears. They met again and again, and the maiden consented to marry the prince, provided her parents would approve the match. The prince first declared his wish to his own parents, who, of course, were greatly astonished at their son's apparently foolish selection, and would not give their consent. But the prince protested solemnly that his resolution was unshakable. He would either marry the girl he loved or remain single all his days. Finally his royal father took pity on him, and sent his first adjutant to the shepherd secretly to ask the hand of his daughter for the prince. The condition: when the adjutant came and communicated the royal message, the shepherd asked him, "Is there any trade with which the royal prince is familiar?" The adjutant was amazed at such a question. "Lord forbid, foolish man," he exclaimed, "how could you expect the heir apparent to know a trade? People learn trades in order to earn their daily bread. Princes possess lands and cities, and so do not need to work." But the shepherd persisted, saying, "If the prince knows no trade, he cannot become my son-in-law." The royal courier returned to the palace and reported to the king his conversation with the shepherd, and great was the astonishment throughout the palace when the news became known, for all expected that the shepherd would be highly flattered that the king had chosen his daughter's hand for the prince in preference to the many royal and imperial princesses who would have been willing to marry him for the asking. The king sent again to the shepherd, but the man remained firm in his resolution. "As long as the prince," said he, "does not know any trade, I shall not grant him the hand of my daughter." When this second official brought back to the palace the same answer, the king informed his son of the shepherd's condition, and the royal prince resolved to put himself in the way of complying with it. his first step was to go through the city from door to door in order to select some simple and easy trade. As he walked through the streets he beheld various craftsmen at their work, but he did not stay until he came to the workshop of a carpet maker, and this trade appeared to him both easy and lucrative. He therefore offered his services to the master, who gladly undertook to teach him the trade. In due time the prince obtained a certificate of efficiency, and he went to the shepherd and showed it to him, together with samples of his handwork. The shepherd examined these and asked the prince, "How much could you get for this carpet?" The prince replied, "If it is made of grass, I could sell it for 3 pence. "Why, that is a splendid trade," answered the shepherd. 3 pence today and another 3 pence tomorrow would make 6 pence, and in 2 other days you would have earned a shilling. If I only had known this trade a few years ago I would not have been a shepherd." Thereupon he related to the prince and his suite the story of his past life, and what ill fate had befallen him, to the greatest surprise of all. You may be sure that the prince rejoiced to learn that his beloved was highly born, and the worthy mate of a king's son. As for his father, he was especially glad that his son had fallen in love, not with the daughter of a simple shepherd, but with the royal princess. The marriage was now celebrated with great magnificence, and when the festivities came to an end, the king gave the shepherd a fine ship, together with a powerful escort, that he might go back to his country and reassume possession of his royal throne. Once Cigans or gypsies in Serbia, and indeed in the whole Balkan Peninsula, deal mostly with horses. Stealing and selling horses is their main occupation. Tuera is a name given to the peasants of the district of Uzica, western Serbia. They are supposed to be very witty and shrewd, and might be called the Irishmen of Serbia. 3. When Serbians are greatly surprised at anything they involuntarily make the sign of the cross. Glossary and index. There are 30 characters in the Serbian alphabet for the 30 corresponding sounds, of which 5 are vowels, all open sounds, viz. A, E, U, O, Y as in father, E as in met, U as E in B, O as in note, Y as OO in boot. OU is pronounced also as OO in boot. Closed or semi-closed vowels are unknown to the Serbian tongue. The 25 consonants are pronounced as in English, with the following exceptions: H at the beginning of words or syllables is always aspirated. R is always rolled. In a Serbian monosyllable it sometimes plays the part of a vowel between 2 consonants, e.g. vrt, garden. The combinations ts or tz, as in tsar, Zarina, etc., are pronounced like ts in its y has been used in the English forms of Serbian names not as a vowel but invariably as a consonant, as in year. This consonantal y has been used often after the consonants d, l, n, and t, and y is then merged into the preceding consonant to form one sound. For example, dy becomes very like the sound of j in jaw, as in the word diourity, which is pronounced juraj. Z in the names Zdril and Zabilak is pronounced like S in pleasure, elsewhere it is pronounced as in English. The Serbian language, being phonetic, does not employ double consonants, diphthongs, or triphthongs. The 30 letters represent always the same 30 sounds, and the position of the written symbol does not affect or qualify its sound. Adrianople. Equivalent, Yedranet, 123 Adriatic. Ivan Crnwajević sails across, to Venice, 134, 142 Adriatic coast. The Latins, Illyrians, Thracians, Greeks, and Albanians driven by the Serbians toward the 1 Africa n. west. A Serbian folk tale dealing with animals. Language, similarity of, to a story native to the Negroes of, 230 ages, middle. Banović Strahinja, one of the finest and most famous ballads composed by Serbian bards of the 119 Agram, Zagreb. Croatians establish an episcopate at in 11th century, 14 Albania. Subdued by Dušan the Powerful, 5, George Kastriatović Skanderbeg fights for liberty of, 8, Skadar the capital of northern, 119 Albanian s, the driven by Serbians toward the Adriatic coast, 1, Spirits of the Wood dreaded by, 19, Arbanas an appellation for, 108 Alexander. Unworthy son of Milan, ascends throne of Serbia, 11, marries his former mistress, Dragomatian, but is murdered, 11 a Murad. A Turkish Grand Vizier, Prince Marko and, 105 to 108 a Murath, Sultan, Moray, corrupted form. Defeats Ne Lazar on field of Kosovo, 7, Vila Ali independent of, 121, slain by Serbian hero, Vojvode Miloš, 173 anecdotes. Some Serbian popular, 362 to 369, Saint Peter and the Sand, 362, Why the Serbian people are poor, 362, The Gypsies and the Nobleman, 363, Why the Priest was drowned, 364, The Era from the Other World, 364, A Trade Before Everything, 366 Animals. The king makes war on the, described in the Serbian folk tale Animals as Friends and Enemies, 313 to 316 Animals as Friends and Enemies. A Serbian folk tale, 305 to 316 Animals Council, the described in the Serbian folk tale Animals as Friends and Enemies, 308, 309 Animals, King of the Hero in a Serbian folk tale, 230 Animals Language. A Serbian folk tale dealing with, 230 to 235 Anju, Charles of Prince Aurosh maintains friendly relations with French court of, 119 Antivari. Ivan Crnwajević invites all heroes in the province of, to his son's wedding, 139 Apostles. The Greek priests and monks prepare the ground for the Great Slav, 29, Cyrillos and Methodius, the two Slav, 29 Apple. The, a symbolic gift, which a Serbian wooer offers to the maiden of his choice, 245 Apple tree, the golden. A Serbian folk tale, 267 to 280 Arbanas. Appellation for Albanian, 108 Archangel Michael. Death and, 31, Kaliivo not prepared for, 41 Athos, Mount. Vaso, the abbot of, finds Marco's dead body, 118 Austria. War between Serbia and Bulgaria instigated by, 11 Avala. A mountain by Belgrade, 177 Azov, Sea of. Serbians live to the northeast of, 1b Banach. The oak tree used at Christmas by the Serbians, 47 Bani Dan. Serbian equivalent for Christmas Eve, 46 Bajazet. Son of Sultan Amurath, 7 Balsius. Latinized form of Bo, in early records, 119, name changed at the court at Naples into Balza, 119 Balkan Peninsula. Incursion of the Serbians into, 1 Balkan territories. Kingdoms embraced in, 1 Balkan War. Mrs. C. H. Farnham's devotion to the wounded during the, 57, 58, reference to the feats of arms performed by the Serbians during the, 175 Balkans. Hero tales of the, express the ideals which have inspired the Serbian race, 12, explanation of the decay of the ancient aristocracy throughout the, 14 Balkans, the Empress of the drama by King Nicholas I Petrovich of Montenegro, 134 ballad. Serbian bards improvise, to record deeds of King Nicholas I Petrovich of Montenegro, 120, the marriage of Maximus Crnojevich, the finest and most famous Serbian, 134, usual ending to ballads by Serbian and Montenegrin bards, 184, historical note on that of King Fukushkin's marriage, 193, 194, observation regarding motif of the captivity and marriage of Stefan Karadžić, 194, the saints divide the treasures, 195 to 197. 3 Serbian, 1, the building of Skatter, Skuteri, etc., 198, 2, the stepsisters, 206, and 3, the abduction of the beautiful Iconia, 210 Balzhic. Nicholas I Petrovich, King of Montenegro, and an indirect descendant out of 120 Balza. Italianized form of Balsius, Bo, 119 Ban. The original title of the rulers of Bosnia, 6 Banat. One of the Serbian provinces in Austria-Hungary, Banović Strahinja. The ballad relating to, one of the finest composed by anonymous bards of Middle Ages, 119, historical data, 119, 120, some Serbian historians believe identical with the glorious Strašimir Balšić Nemanjić, 119, eulogized as a falcon without equal, 120, Diogo the faithful steed of, 120, Karaman the faithful greyhound of, 120, visits Yug Bogdan, 120 to 121 Baniska, Lord of Little. Title by which a dervish hails Banović Strahinja, 122 bards. 1. Serbian. Attention now turned to the exploits of modern heroes at Monastir, Kumanovo, Prelep, Skuteri, Skatter, etc., 176, usual ending to ballads of, 184, word book invariably used by those of 14th century when speaking of a letter, 186. 2. Montenegrin. Stereotyped ending to ballads of, 184 Bashchalik, real steel. A Serbian folk tale, 247 to 267, his promise of 3 lives to the prince, and his abduction of his deliverer's wife, 258 to 267 Basil I, Emperor. The second conversion of southern Slavs to Christianity was effected by, 28 Bachka. One of the Serbian provinces in Austria-Hungary, Bo, de. Strašimir Balšić Nemanjić, a descendant of the old Provençal family of, 119, in early records the name is Latinized Balsius, 119, supposition that the Italianized seigneurs de Bo, who married into royal house of Nemanjić and who settled in Serbian lands, further changed their patronymic to Balša or Balzhić, 119 Bo, Hughes de. A French knight, reference to, 33 Bazar, Relia of. A Serbian knight, Bogdan the Bully and, 87 to 89 Beardless. A name used as the personification of craftiness and sharpness, applied to man in Serbian folk tale Lying for a Wager, 283 Beata Maria. Saint Elias inquires the reason of her great grief, 195, Saint Elias comforts, 196 Badivia. The Moorish chieftain's mare, 79, Sharats and, 79, 80, 81, Bogdan the Bully's mare, 87, name of mare given by Ivan Crnojevich to Milosha Branbigović, 141, Voivode Balichko's mare, 168 Belgrade. Reference to the triumphal return of the Serbian army to, at the conclusion of the Balkan campaigns, 1912-13, 176, Avila warns Stefan and Demetrius Yakshić of the intention of the Turks to assail, 177, Stefan Yakshić and Hakuna escape to, 183 beliefs. Superstitions of Serbians, and national customs, 13-53 Berlin. Famous Treaty of, acknowledged the independence of Serbia during rule of Milan, 10-11, mention of Avil ring in Treaty of, 17 Bertrandon de la Brocquière, Chevalier. Told in 1433 that Trajanopol had been built by the Emperor Trajan, 27 Bind. Illyrian god, a reminder of, in the tradition regarding Prince Ivan Crnjajević, 25 Bird Maiden, the A Serbian folk tale, 280-283 Biter Bit, the A Serbian folk tale, 328-340, The 100 Daughters Inn, 330, The Wedding Procession, 333, The Black Giant Inn, 334, The Old Woman Meets the Old Man in a Forest by the River Luckless, 336, The Black Giant Buys the Cow, 339 Blind. In Serbian Hungary there are schools in which national ballads are taught, 55, 56 Bokchaluks. Serbian equivalent for wedding presents, 32 Bodin, king. Son of Michaelo, obtains title from Pope Gregory VII, 3, restores the Serbia of Chaslav, and adds Bosnia to his state, 3 Bogdan the Bully. Marko and, 87-89 Bogdan, Yug. Aged father-in-law of Banović, 120, 121, castle in Kruševac the residence of, 120, one of his sons-in-law a direct descendant of King Nemanja, 120, Strahinja returns to, after his slaying of Vilaali, 128 Bogumils. Protestants of the Greek Orthodox Church who settled in Bosnia, 4 Bojic. Equivalent, the Little God. The Christmas Day Church Service, 49 Boško Jugović. One of Tsarina Militsa's 9 brothers, 170, refuses to remain with her while Tsar Lazarus departs to battlefield of Kosovo, 171 Bosniaks. Serbians inhabiting Bosnia, considered to be the most typical Serbians, 13 Bosnia. King Bodin adds to his state, 3, Bankaulan placed on the throne of, 4, Stephen Tomašević king of, 8, subjugation of, complete by 1463, 8, the Padishah offers to make Stefan Yakshić Grand Vizier of, if he will renounce the Holy Cross, 179 Bosnia and Herzegovina. One of the kingdoms in the Balkan territories, 1, Serbian calamity on Kosovo due mainly to the disobedience of the Serbian lords who ruled over, 175 Boring, Sir John. Quotations of 3 poems from his Serbian popular poetry, 198-212 Bojana. River on which Scatter's fortress stands, 186, 198 Branković, Dio Uridi. Nephew of Vuk Branković, 7, reference to death of, 8 Branković, Vuk, Wolf. The treachery of, against Ne Lazar, 7, his death, 7, Tsarina Militsa and death of, 173, responsibility for great calamity to the Serbian army on Kosovo assigned by bards to, 174 Bragelnica. Reference to, as a set off to Slivnica, 176 Bregovo. Town of, Marko and Miloš at, 105 Bride. The custom with the Serbians for one of her brothers to present the bride to her wooer, 248 Bulgaria. A province of Serbia under Stephen Dekanski, 5, war against, by Serbia, 11, Shishman king of 94 Bulgars. Serbians an easy prey to attacks of 2 Bully, the alternative for Bogdan, 87 to 89, Albanian equivalent, Kesgia, 108, his death on the top of Kachanik mountain, 114 Byzantines. Serbians an easy prey to attack of 2, Christianity deeply rooted in the 14, Perun, the Russian god of thunder, concluded with the 15 Byzantine Empire. Incorporates Bulgaria and overpowers Rashka. 3. Dushan the powerful subdues almost the whole of the 5. Prince Aurosh endeavors to negotiate an alliance between Serbs and French for overthrow of 119 C. Karaman. The Greyhound of Banovich, 120, 121, assists Banovich against Vilali, 127 Carpet, the Magic. Described in the Serbian folk tale Animals as Friends and Enemies, 309 to 313 Charles of Anjou. Prince Aurosh through his wife Helen, a French princess, maintains friendly relations with French court of 119 Christ. Teachings of, translated into Serb language by Cyrillos and Methodius, to Christianity. Conversion of pagan Serbian tribes to 1. Paganism and, of southern Slavonic races, 14 to 53, as early as the 11th century a number of Croatians converted to 14, the new, sapped in Russia by the enchanters, 24, indicated by the cross, 26, the spread of, 28 to 32, Moravians converted to, 29, superstition stronger in the Balkans than, 30 Christians. Reference to campaigns between Turks and the 6. Miseries of, under Turkish rule, 8, 9, evil spirits and, 19, Prince Maximus and Jovana Branbigović to be used in service against, 149, historical note re the cunning efforts of Ottoman statesmen to seduce malcontents from their allegiance to their rightful lords, 184, 185 Christmas. Serbian customs at, 46 to 51 Church. The Greek Christian, to which all Serbians, including the natives of Montenegro, Macedonia, etc., belong, 30, reference to the, in the Serbian ballad The Saints Divide the Treasures, 197 Cinderella. See Pepliuga and Mara, 226 to 229 Koch, the retort of, regarding the man who had been granted the gift of animals language, 235 Constantinople. Vanquished by Crusaders, 4, dead bodies burnt during siege of, 25, Cyrillos a professor of philosophy in University of the Imperial Palace of, 29, Turkish alternative Istanbul, 72 Courtenay, Hausta. Helen, wife of Aurosh, a French princess of the, 119 Cow. The black giant buys the, described in the Serbian folk tale The Biter Bit, 339 Croatia. One of the provinces in Austria-Hungary, 1 Croatians. A number of, converted to Christianity as early as the 11th century, 14 Cross, the indicates the presence of Christianity, 26, the Slava and the sign of, 42, 44, Christmas customs and the sign of, 47, 48, Boško Jogović's devotion to, 171, Stefan Jakšić's devotion to, 179, St. John chooses, 196, Christians of the Balkans and the sign of, before and after every meal, 237, the Serbians when greatly surprised at anything, involuntarily make the sign of, 366 Curse of Christendom. Marco takes steps to avoid the 117 customs, national. The chief of the Serbians, 31 to 53, marriage, 32 to 40, Slava, or Krasno Ime, 40 to 49 customs, Serbian. Superstitious beliefs and, 13 to 53, a brother to present a bride to her wooer, 248 Cyrillos. Methodius and, the so-called Slavonic apostles who translated the teaching of Christ into the ancient Slav language, 2, 29d Daedalus. Confused in Serbian legends with Emperor Trajan, 27 Dalmatians. Sea-going men who pray only to Saint Nicholas, 51 dance rings, Verdinokalo. The Veal and there, 17, one on Mount Com in Montenegro called Vilanokalo, 17 Danica. The morning star, its appearance puts Zime of Yastrebats to flight, 130, reference to, in the captivity and marriage of Stefan Yakshić, 177 Danube. Allusion to Sharrat's swim across the, 91, Marco drowns part of Vaucha's army in, 92 Daughters. The 100, in the Serbian folk tale The Biter Bit, 330 Dabog, the sun god. Russian equivalent, Das Bog literally give, O God. 16, to the Serbians the personification of sunshine, life, and prosperity, 16, remains of idols representing, among southern Slavonic nations, 16, Christmas festivities and, 49 dead. Festival in honor of, during Lent, 52 death. The Archangel Michael and, 31 deeds, good, never perish. The Serbian folk tale, 291 to 299 Decimir. King Vukašin's trusty servant, 199 Dever. The leader of the Serbian bride, 35 Devil S, Diavo. Considered as pagan gods, 19 Diasevist. The learned, of Pisistrates epoch, 54 Diocletian, emperor. References in southern Slavonic legends to, 27 Divan. Means, in Serbian, any state gathering. As used in the Serbian ballad The Saints Divide the Treasures, it means the supreme judgment, 195 Jalat, executioner. Stefan Yakshić threatened with the 180 Dobrovoy. Servant of Theodore of Stilach, 211 Doda or Dodala. The rite connected with the favorite goddess of rain, 51, 52 Don, the river. Serbians lived on banks of, 1 Duramitor. The mountain, 186 Dushan the powerful, mighty. Dethrones his father Stephen Dekanski, 5, Vampires and the Code of, 21, 22, 24, Vukašin's bad faith toward, 61, attended by Archdeacon Ned Lyko till death, 66, the marriage of, 150 to 169, sends Theodore, Counselor of State, to King Michael of Ledion, 150, sues for the hand of Princess Roxanda, 150, 151, the two Voinovichs, Vukašin and Petroshin, nephews of, 151, Miloš the shepherd joins the wedding procession of, 153, 154, the four tests undertaken by Miloš the shepherd on behalf of, in order to win the Princess Roxanda, 160 to 166, reference to the wresting of the empire from the Turk by the Serb, until it is in extent almost equivalent to empire under, 176 Dragomir. Japan of Trebinje, father of Stephen Voislav, 3 Dragoutin. Son of Aurosh the Great, deposes his father and becomes king of Serbia, 4, retires in favor of his brother Milutin, 4, assumes title of king of Sirmia, 5, yields his throne to Milutin, 5 dream of the king's son, the A Serbian folk tale, 322 to 328 Dukadian, plain of. Given as fief to Mermbe Abranbegović, 149 Dulzigno. Ivan Crnwajević invites all heroes in province of, to his son's wedding, 134, 139 Diakovica. Vouch of, admires Kaulash the steed of Milosh the shepherd, 157 Diavo. Sea devils. Diogo. Faithful steed of Banović, 120, 121, 122, enables Banović to escape Vilali's spear, 126 earth. The saints divide the treasures of, 195 to 197 Elias, St. Elijah. Serbian peasants believe that the god Perun still lives in person of, 15, Kaliivo not prepared for, 41, mention of, in Serbian ballad the saints divide the treasures, 195, 196, lightning and thunder chosen by, 196 enchanters, Cherubnitsi. Celebrants of the various pagan rites, 24 enemies. Animals as friends and, a Serbian folk tale, 305 to 316 era. The name given to the peasants of the district of Uzica, western Serbia, they are supposed to be very witty and shrewd, and might be called the Irishmen of Serbia, 364, the era from the other world, a Serbian popular anecdote, 364 to 366 Europe. The Turk almost driven from, during the golden rule of King Peter I, 11F Falcon, the Banović eulogized as, without equal, 120 Farnham, Mrs. Ch. Her interest in Vuk's Book of Serbian National Poems, 57, 58 Feast. The Slava, 45, 46 Folklore. Tales of Serbian, 213 to 328, The Ram with the Golden Fleece, 213 to 220, A Pavilion Neither in the Sky nor on the Earth, 220 to 224, Pepliuga, 224 to 230, Animals Language, 230 to 235, The Stepmother and Her Stepdaughter, 235 to 240, Justice and Injustice, 240 to 243, He who asks little receives much, 243 to 247, Bashchalik, Real Steel, 247 to 267, The Golden Apple Tree and the 9 Peahens, 267 to 280, The Bird Maiden, 280 to 283, Lying for a Wager, 283 to 287, The Maiden Wiser Than the Tsar, 287. 291, Good Deeds Never Perish, 291 to 299, He whom God helps no one can harm, 300 to 305, etc., Animals as Friends and Enemies, 305 to 316, The Three Suitors, 316 to 322, The Dream of the King's Son, 322 to 328, The Biter Bid, 328 to 340, The Trade That No One Knows, 340 to 353, The Golden-Haired Twins, 353 to 361 francs. Serbians an easy prey to attacks of, 2 French. Princess, Helen wife of Auroche, 119, Court of Charles of Anjou and Prince Auroche, 119, Auroche negotiates an alliance between Serbs and the 119 friends. Animals as Enemies and, A Serbian Folk Tale, 305 to 316 Funeral customs. Description of, among Slavs, Serbians, etc., 25 to 27 G. Galicia. Serbians lived as a patriarchal people in country now known as, 1 George's Day, Saint Serbian equivalent, Dio Yurdayev Dan. Strange sorceries practiced on, 53 giants. Serbian equivalent, Jins, Turkish equivalent, Div. Those in Bulgarian, Croatian, etc., mythology, we owe to the cycle of medieval myths, 27, the 9, in the Serbian folktale Baščelik, 247, 252, 253, 254, 255, the Black, in the Serbian folktale the Biter Bit, 328, the, in the Serbian folktale the Trade That No One Knows, 345 Gypsies. Serbian equivalent, Cigans, 363, the Nobleman and the, a Serbian popular anecdote, 363, stealing and selling horses their main occupation, 363 God. The Veal believed in, and Saint John, 17, keys of the heavens given to the saints by, 196, the wrath of, 197, he whom God helps no one can harm, a Serbian folk tale, 300 to 305, etc. God Esperun, the god of thunder, 15, Volos, the god of cattle, 15, Dabig, the sun god, 15, 16 Gerda. One of Vuk's national ballads was translated by, 55 Golich. The mountain of, the dervish declares he would recognize Banovich Strahinja even on top of, 122, Banovich rides to mount, 124 Goiko. Youngest of 3 brothers who built Skatter, Skuteri, 198, his young wife immured in the foundation of Skatter, 198 to 205 Golo Uban. Tsar Lazarus servant who succored Tsarina Militsa, 172 good deeds never perish. A Serbian folk tale, 291 to 299 Guslar. A Serbian national bard, 50, 63 Gorski Vianats, the mountain wreath. The masterpiece of the Serbian poet Peter Petrovich, 56, mention of the Gusl in, 56 Gospel. The Slavonic translation of, applies name Cherubnitsi to the 3 holy kings, 24, Cyrillos translates the, 29 Gusl. A primitive instrument with a single string, found in every Serbian home, 56, used during Balkans Turkish War, 1912-13, in reciting poems relating to Marko, 63 Gojko, voivode. Inheritance of the empire disputed by, 65-71 great powers, the King Nicholas I Petrovich of Montenegro obliged to evacuate Skatter by, 120 Greeks, the driven by the Serbians toward the Adriatic coast, 1 Greek nymphs. The Veal compared with, 17 Gregory VII, Pope. Bestows title of king upon Michaelo, 3 guns. Krnjo and Zelenko, Ivan Crnwayevich's 2 famous, 140 Hajis. Turkish equivalent for pilgrims, 108 Haydukes. Night brigands, exploits of, sung by professional bards, 55 Haykuna. Daughter of the Vizier of Novi Bazar, 180, Stefan Yaksich declines the water of oblivion offered by, 181, 182, confesses her real love for Stefan Yaksich and enables him to escape, 182, 183 Heaven S. The saints divide the treasures of, 195 to 197, the keys of, given by God to the saints, 196, the saints locked the 7, 197 Helen. A French princess of the House of Courtenay, wife of Prince Auroche, 119 Helen, Queen. Serbian alternative, Yevrosima, Euphrosyne, mother of the royal Prince Marco, 59 Heraclius, Emperor. Cedes provinces to the Serbians. 1. Serbians first adopt Christian faith during reign of 28 heroes. Attention of Serbian bards now turn to exploits of modern, at Monastir, Komanovo, Prelep, Skutari, Scatter, etc., 176 Herzegovina. Subjugation complete by 1482. 8. King Fukushin dispatches book, letter, to, 186 historical note. On Tsar Lazarus and the Tsarina Militsa, 174 to 176, on the captivity and marriage of Stefan Yaksich, 184, 185, on the marriage of King Fukushin, 193, 194 historical retrospect. Of the Serbians, 1 to 12 Hodjas. Turkish equivalent for priest, 108, 179 Homer. Reference to, 54 Hussein. The trusty servant of the Vizier of Novi Bazar, 180 Horia Margi. Capital of the state which the Serbians failed to form in 9th century, 2 Horse Sharats, Prince Marcos Wonderful, 17, 57, 61 to 65, 68, 69, 76, Kaulash, the steed of Prince Vojinović, 154, 155, 157 to 159, Badivia, name of the Moorish chieftains, 79 to 81, Diogo, the name of the faithful steed of Banović, 120, 121, 122, 126, Badivia, name of Miloša Branbigović's, 141, Strul, name of Ivan Crnwajević's steed, 135, 140, 142, Badivia, name of Voivode Balichko's, 168, the old woman and her, in. The Serbian folk tale The Golden Apple Tree and the 9 Peahens, 276 to 280, the Golden, in the Serbian folk tale The Dream of the King's Son, 325 to 328 human sacrifices. Legends regarding, among Russians, Slavs, Serbians, etc., 25 Hungary. Thousands of Serbian families emigrate to, through tyrannous Turkish rule, 8 huntsmen. Prince Marco and the Turkish, 105 to 108 ich, or ic. The characteristic termination of most Serbian family names, 119 Iconia. Daughter of Prince Milutin, Theodore of Stalac abducts, 210 to 212, betrothed to George Irene, 4 Sredoj, 211 Iconia, the abduction of the beautiful. A Serbian national ballad from Sir John Bowring's Serbian popular poetry, 210 to 212 Iliad. Reference to, 54 Illyrians, the driven by Serbians toward Adriatic coast, 1 Immortality. Serbians believe in predestination and, 18 India. Beata Maria relates to Saint Elias her recent arrival from, 195. Irene, George. Iconia betrothed to, 4 Sredoj, 211 Irishmen. Of Serbia, the peasants of the district of Uzica, Western Serbia, might be termed the 364 Islam. Remnant of Serbians under Turkish rule forced to embrace, 8, Maximus Stefanović threatens to embrace, 149, Stefan Jakšić declines to embrace faith of, 181, 182 Isaiah. The deacon of Abbot Vaso, 118 Istanbul. Turkish equivalent for Constantinople, 72, Moorish chieftain demands daughter of Sultan at, 72-81, Mausa Kesgia at, 108, Prince Maximus threatens to go to, in order to embrace Islam, 149 Istria. One of the provinces in Austria-Hungary, 1 Ivan Begović, Skanderbeg. Turkish alternative for Prince Maximus Stefanović, 149 Ivan Kozinčić. C. Kozinčić. Ivan Stefanović, C. Stefanović. Tradition regarding the river of Stefanović and, 24, 25 Jesu, Lord. Stefan Jakšić prefers to lose his life for the sake of, rather than become a Turk, 180, Stefan Jakšić plights his troth to Hakuna in the name of, 183 John, Saint the Veal believed in, 17, the princess appeals to Prince Marco in name of, 75, 76, the Vila Raviola appeals to Marco by memory of, 104, mention of, in Serbian ballad the saints divide the treasures, 195, brotherhood and cumhood as well as the Holy Cross, chosen by, 196 justice and injustice. A Serbian folk tale, 240 to 243 K. Cutty. Equivalent, Ottoman judge, 179 Kami, or byleg. Term applied in Middle Ages to gravestones still found in large numbers in Herzegovina, Dalmatia, etc., now known as Stetiak or Mramer, 26, 27 Karadžić, Vuk Stefanović. See Vuk Stefanović Karadžić, Alexander. Son of Karageorge Petrović, 10, Caravalian land. Miloš the shepherd instructed to declare that he hails from the 155 Kastriatović Skanderbeg, George. An Albanian chief who fought successfully for the liberty of Albania, 8 Kachanik. A defile up which Prince Marco rides to meet Mausa, 112, Mausa the bully's death on mountain of, 114 Kesgia. Equivalent, fighter or bully. The nickname of an Albanian chevalier brigand, Mausa, who rebelled against the Sultan, 108 keys. The, of the heavenly empire, chosen by Saint Peter, 196, the keys of the heavens given by God to the saints, 196 key stood. Brother of the Grand Duke Algird, his interment the last recorded instance of a pagan burial, 26 Glasaura. The wedding procession of Tsar Dusan reaches, 157, the fight for Kaulash at, 158, 159 nay. The title corresponding to Prince, 6 Kolage. A special cake eaten on saints' days, 41 Kalo. The Serbian national dances, 40, 52 Kalo, Verdina. Name applied to the veal rings, 17 Kaliivo. Lit. Something which has been killed with the knife, the Slava cake, 41 Koum. The principal witness at Serbian weddings, 35, Beata Maria complains of a brother Koum bearing false witness against, 196 Kupinovo. A village on plain of Sirmia, in which Zime despot Vuk lived, 130 Kozinčić, Ivan. General Vaucha and, 89-94 Kosovo. Vuk's national poems dwell on the glory of the Serbian medieval empire, lost on fatal field of, 55, 4 Tabors meet on field of, disputing over the inheritance of the empire, 65, the Sultana's dream concerning, 74, Marco and the maiden from, 82 to 86, Marko, Rilja and Miloš ride out from, 87, Banović hears of encampment of hordes of Turks on field of, 120, Banović seeks and attacks the Turks on field of, 120 to 128, Tsar Dušan's wedding procession rides through field of, 152, Miloš takes farewell of Tsar Dušan in middle of plain of, 168, Tsar Lazarus does battle on field of, 170 to 172, death of Tsar Lazarus on field of, 172 to 174, historical note on battle of, 174 to 176, historical note re Ottoman influence upon the peasantry in Bosnia and Herzegovina at the time, 1389, of the Battle of, 184, 185 Kaulash. Steed of Petroshin Vojnović, written by Miloš the Shepherd to join wedding procession of Tsar Dušan, 154, 155, the wonderful leap of, admired by Vuk of Diakovica, Yanko of Nestopoli and others, 156, 157, the fight for, at Klasaura, 157, 158, 159 Kaulan, Ban. Placed on throne of Bosnia, for Kumanovo. Famous battlefield on which in 1913 more Turks perished than did Serbians 5 centuries ago, 175, reference to, as a set-off to Kosovo, 176 Kralj. Serbian equivalent for king, 198 Crnjo and Zelenko. Ivan Crnjajević's 2 famous guns, 140 Kruševac. I Castle Inn, the residence of Vuk Bogdan, 120, 2. Castle Inn, the residence of Tsar Lazar, 129, Tsar Lazar beseeches Zime despot Vuk to come to, 131, 3. The capital of the vast Serbian Empire during the reign of Tsar Herbilianović at time of famous Battle of Kosovo, AD 1389, 171, Bosko Jugović declares he would not forego Battle of Kosovo for the price of, 171 Kruševo. A plane, over which Zime of Jastrebac flies toward the Tsarina's tower, 130, Zime despot Vuk reaches, 131 Kustandile. Veal ring between Vranja and, mentioned in the Treaty of Berlin, 17 El Lail. The popular appellation of Serbians living in Bachka and Banat, 156 language, animals. A Serbian folk tale dealing with, 230 to 235 Latins, the driven by Serbians toward Adriatic coast, 1 Lazar, ne. Elected ruler of Serbia, 6, makes an alliance with Bantiv Rightko against the Turks, 6, 7, slain by Sultan Amurath, 7 Lazar, Tsar. The Tsarina Milica confesses to the embraces of her magic lover, the Zime of Jastrebac, 129 to 133, Zime despot Vuk in the wheatfields of, 131 Lazarus. I of Bethany. Poems recited on the resurrection of, 52. 2 Tsar. The Tsarina Milica and, 170 to 176, his departure to the battlefield of Kosovo, 170 to 172, his glorious death, 173, 174, historical note regarding, 174 to 176, reference to empire lost by, regained under King Peter I, 176 Ledian. Tsar Dušan sends Theodore to King Michael of, 150, Miloš the Shepherd pursues champion of the Venetian king to gates of, 162, Miloš rides to perform the second test in the meadow of 163, Voivode Balichko ordered to fight Miloš by the king of 167 legends. Influence on southern Slavonic peoples of Greco-Oriental and Christian myths and 14. Influence from Greeks and Romans on southern Slavonic, 27-30 love. Leto, oi, Leto de, refrain which is probably the name of the ancient Slavonic deity of love, 52 love. The of sister for her brother is proverbial in Serbia, 170 luckless, the river. Mention of, in the Serbian folk tale the biter bit, 336 lying for a wager. A Serbian folk tale, 283 to 287 M. Macedonia. One of the provinces in the Balkan territories, one Magyares Prince Marko and, 92 to 94 Maiden, the bird. A Serbian folk tale, 280 to 283 Maiden wiser than the Tsar, the. A Serbian folk tale, 287 to 291 Marko, Krasievich. Proclaimed himself king of the Serbians, eldest son of King Fukushin, 6, 59, aids Turks against the Christians, 6, killed in Battle of Rovina, 6, endowed with superhuman strength, and presented with a wonderful courser, chariots, by Avila, 17, his guests on his Slava day, 45, the Gusel and exploits of, 57, Queen Helen mother of, 59, traditional son of Avila and Azime, 59, the most beloved of Serbian heroes, 59, 60, virtues of, 59, tradition extols him as faithful defender of Prince Aurosh, 61, Serbian belief that he will reappear to re-establish the medieval empire, 64, his supposed appearance at the Battle of Prelip, 1912, 64, 65, tells whose the empire shall be, 65 to 71, cursed by his father, 71, the Moor and, 72 to 81, the Sultana's dream concerning, 74, wedding tax abolished by, 82 to 86, Bogdan the Bully and, 87 to 89, General Vaucha and, 89 to 94, wedding procession of, 94 to 100, the Moorish princess and, 100 to 102, the Vila Raviola and, 102 to 105, the Turkish huntsman and, 105 to 108. Mausa Kestgia and, 108 to 114, his death, 115 to 118 Mara. Alternative, Pepliuga, Cinderella, 226 to 229 marriage. The customs obtaining at Serbian, 32 to 40 Mass, the Holy. Mention of, in Serbian ballad the saints divide the treasures, 196 Maximus Crnwajević. C. Crnwajević murmured. Turkish Grand Vizier, Vila Ali independent of, 121 Methodius. Cyrillos and, the so-called Slavonic apostles who translated the teaching of Christ into the ancient Slav language, 2, 29 Michael. King of Ledion, father of Princess Roxenda, Tsar Dushan sues for the hand of Roxenda, 150, Theodore reports to the Tsar result of his mission to King of Ledion, 151, 152 Michael, Archangel. Death and, 31, Kalaivo not prepared for, 41 Michaelo. Son of Stephen Voislav, obtains title of king from Pope Gregory VII, 3, King Bodin son of, 3 Michel, Serbian Mihajlo. Son of Miloš Obrenović, succeeds his father as Prince of Serbia, 10 Michel 3, Emperor. Mission of Cyrillos and Methodius 2, 29 Middle Ages. Stefanović Strahinja, one of the finest ballads composed anonymously by Serbian bards during the 119 Mijatović, Madam see reference to Serbian folklore, by 305 Milan. Succeeds his cousin Michel as Prince of Serbia, 10, War of 1876-8 against Turkey by 10, Acknowledgement of Serbian independence by Treaty of Berlin during rule of 10, his abdication, 11 Milan of Toplica. General Vaucha and 89-94 Milicevic. A famous Serbian ethnographist relates incident Riarisnik, priest, who read prayers out of the Apocrypha of Perun, 22 Milica, Tsarina. The Zime of Yastrebats and the 129-133, deceives the Zime, 130, recognizes Zime despot Vuk, 131, Tsar Lazarus and the 170-176, as her 9 brothers Jugovics are to accompany Tsar Lazarus to battle on field of Kosovo. She pleads for one brother to be left behind with her, 170, her brother Boško Jugović refuses to remain behind, 171, succored by Golo Uban, 172, news of battle brought by 2 ravens to, 172, 173, death of Lazarus and her brothers described by Milutin, 173, 174 Milosh. Obilic. The Sultan Amurath perishes by the hand of 7, 175 Miloša Branbigović, voivode. Ivan Crnwajević invites to be the Starisvat in connection with his son's wedding, 138-149, Maximus Crnwajević slays, 148, Jovana Branbigović brother of, 149 Miloša Branović. Succeeds in re-establishing the Belgrade Pashalik, 10, forced to abdicate, 10, restored by the Skopština, 10, his death, 10, Michel son of, 10 Miloš of Podzarje. A Serbian knight, Bogdan the Bully and, 87-89, General Vaucha and, 89-94, the Vila Raviola and, 102-105 Miloš the Shepherd. The mother of the 2 Vojinovićs counsels them to send for, 153, his meeting with his 2 brothers, 154, joins the wedding procession of Tsar Dušan, 155, rides the steed Kaulash, 154, 155, his fight for Kaulash, 158, 159, he undertakes the first test on behalf of Tsar Dušan, in order to win Roxanda, 160-162, the second test undertaken by, 162, 163, succeeds in the third test, 164, succeeds in the fourth test by discovering the identity of Princess Roxanda, 164-166, his contest with Balichko, 167-169, Balichko slain by, 168, discloses his identity to Tsar Dušan, 168 Miloš, voivode. The Vila Raviola wounds, 17, the great Serbian hero who slays the Turkish Sultan, Amurath I, 173 Milutin. I Dragoutin, his brother, King of Serbia, retires in favor of, 4, one of the most remarkable descendants of Nemanja, 5, Stephen Dakanski son of, 5. 2 servant of Prince Lazarus, relates to Tsarina Milica death of Tsar Lazarus and her 9 brothers on field of Kosovo, 173, 174. 3 Prince of Resava, Iconia daughter of, 211-212. Minister. the treacherous, in the Serbian folk tale good deeds never perish, 294 Mirach. Prince Marko and Miloš of Podsarje ride across the mountain of 102 mission. Of Cyrillos and Methodius to the Emperor Michel III, 29 Myatovish, Mchetu. Personal friend of King Alexander, 11 Mohammed. The Vizier of Teoapria undertakes to make Stefan Yakshić love the creed of 179 Mohammedanism. Prince Maximus and Jovana Branbigović embrace 149 Moldavia. Many noble Serbian families take refuge with Christian princes of 8 Momčilo. Queen Helen, sister of the adventurous knight, 59 Momčilo, voivode. Vidosava the lonely consort of 186, Yabauchilo the steed of 187 to 191, King Fukishin marches an army against 187, the strange dream of 189, falls into an ambuscade, 189, his valiant fight, 190, Yevrosima vainly attempts to rescue, 191, the death of 192, his castle pillaged, 193 Montenegro. Never subdued by Turks, 8, belief in, that each house has its guardian spirit, 18, belief in vampires in, 21, 22, Nicholas I Petrovich king of, 120, the marriage of Maximus Crnojevich the source of the drama The Empress of the Balkans by king of, 134, Vilatica Danilo Petrovich, uncle of the present king of, who first assumed the title of prince as a hereditary one, 184, few instances of treachery in, 185 more, the wedding tax inflicted by, 82 to 86 Moorish chieftain, A Prince Marko and, 72 to 80 Morava. The river of, 2, Theodore of Stilach at, 210 Moravians. Their conversion to Christianity, 29 Mausa Arbanes. See Mausa Kestgia. Prince Marko and, 108 to 114 Mujo. His welfare in the other world described in the Serbian popular anecdote The Era from the Other World, 331 to 333 Mrnjevčević. Three brothers who built Skadar, Skutari, 198 Musulman faith. The Vizier of Teoapria tries to convert Stefan Yakshić to the 179 mythology. Giants, Djinns, in Bulgarian, Croatian, and Slavonian, we owe to the medieval cycle of myths, 27, 28 myths. Influence on southern Slavonic peoples of Graeco-Oriental and Christian legends and, 14 and Naples. Prince Auroche keeps up friendly relations with French court of Charles of Anjou in, 119 Naturalism. Ousted from the Serbians by the doctrines of the Great Master, 29, 30 Nature. The worship of, by southern Slavonic races not adequately studied, 14, has not yet vanished from the creed of the Balkans, 30 Nedliko, Archdeacon. King Fukishin summons to the field of Kosovo, 66, 67 Niimir. Equivalent, architect, 204 Nemanjić. Reference to the glorious dynasty of, 58 Nemanja, Stefan. Grand Japan, created Duke of Serbia by the Byzantine Emperor, 4, Stephen II son of, 4, one of Yug Bogdan's, sons-in-law a direct descendant of, 120 Nestopoli, Yanko of Miloš the shepherd's steed, Kaulash, admired by, 157 New in. Prince Marko placed in, to recuperate his strength for his duel with Mausa, 110, 111 Nicholas I Petrovich. King of Montenegro, an indirect descendant out of Balshitchi, forced by the great powers to evacuate scatter. 120, Serbian bards improvise ballads to record deeds of. 120, source of inspiration of his drama The Empress of the Balkans. 134 Nicholas, saint power of controlling ocean, etc., attributed by the Serbians to. 51, mention of, in Serbian ballad The Saints Divide the Treasures. 195, the seas with the galleys upon them chosen by. 196 Nish. Extreme devotion to the saints practiced at. 46 Novak. A famous maker of swords. 111, makes a sword for Prince Marko. 111, 112 Novi Bazar. The Pasha of, one of the leaders in the assault on Belgrade. 177 to 184, the Vizier of Teoapria wishes to have Stefan Jakšić appointed Vizier of. 180, Stefan Jakšić's life redeemed by the Vizier of. 180 Abranbegović, Mermbey. Turkish alternative for Jovan Abranbegović. 149 Abranović III, Prince Michel. The Serbian legend of a pavilion neither in the sky nor on the earth, contributed to Vuk Stefanović Karadžić by. 220 Obugan Greb. Name borne by the grave of Governor Obuganić, in Konafla. 27 Odyssey. Reference to, 54 Onyena Maria, Mary the Fiery One. Serbian peasants believe her to be the sister of the god Perun, Saint Elias. 15 Old Serbia. One of the provinces in the Balkan territories. 1 Oazud. Avila who pronounced the destiny of Serbian infants. 18 Ottoman generals. Medieval history of Serbia contains many instances of malcontents who became tools in hands of. 174, 175 Ottoman invasion. Aurosh and his nobles paved the way for the 5 Ottoman statesmen. Historical note: re the cunning efforts of, to seduce malcontents from their allegiance to their rightful lords at the courts of the Christian princes of the Balkans. 184, 185 Ugulsha. Inheritance of the empire disputed by. 65, 70 Aurosh. Younger son of Dushan the Powerful. 5, Fukashin's bad faith toward. 61, inheritance of the empire disputed by. 65 to 71, Marko blessed by. 71 Aurosh, prince. Belonged to the Nemanja dynasty. 119, Helen, a princess of the House de Courtenay, wife of. 119, maintained friendly relations with the French court of Charles of Anjou in Naples through his wife. 119 Aurosh the Great. Dethrones his brother Vladislav. 4, dethroned by his son Dragoutin. 4 Arvanian Mountain. Prince Marko's death on. 115 to 118 P. Padishah, Sultan. Marko fears his foes will calumniate him to. 107, Vila Ali the rebel of the. 123, Stefan Jakšić taken before the. 178, Stefan Jakšić tempted to abjure the Holy Cross by. 178 Paganism. The religion and the, of the Serbians. 14 to 53, only partially abolished from the Balkans. 30 Palm Sunday. Serbian festivities on. 52 Panthelius, saint mention of, in Serbian ballad The Saints Divide the Treasures. 195, great heats chosen by. 196 Paul. One of the brothers in the Serbian ballad The Stepsisters. 206 to 210 Pavilion neither in the sky nor on the earth. A Serbian legend. 220 to 224 P. Hens, the 9. A Serbian folk tale. 267 to 280 Pepliuga, Cinderella. A Serbian legend. 226 to 230, alternative name of Mara, 226 to 229 Perun. The Russian god of thunder, 15, name preserved in village Perun, and in plant Perunica, 15 Peter I, king. Son of Alexander Karadžić, his glorious rule, 11, George Petrovich grandfather of, 175, empire lost by Tsar Lazarus regained under, 176 Peter II. Archbishop of Montenegro, and belief in vampires, 22 Peter, saint mention of, in Serbian ballad the saints divide the treasures, 195, wine, wheat, and the keys of the heavenly empire chosen by, 196, Saint Peter and the Sand, a Serbian popular anecdote, 362 Petrović, George. Turkish designation Karageorge, Black George. A gifted Serbian who led a successful insurrection against the Turks in 1804, 9, 175, cruelly assassinated by order of Miloš, 10 Petrović, Nicholas I. See Nicholas Petrović, Peter. The popular Serbian poet, reference to his masterpiece on Gorski Vianac, The Mountain Wreath, 56 Petrović, Vilatica Danilo. Uncle of present King of Montenegro, first assumed the title of prince as a hereditary one, 184 per liter. Alternative, Piritor. The White City opposite the mountain Durmitor, the walls of the castle of which it is said still exist in Herzegovina, 186, Vidasava punished by the castle, 193 Pisistrates epoch. The learned Diacevist of, 54 Pleiades. Serbian equivalent, Sedmara Bratyi, the Seven Brothers, 22 Pajoritsa. Captain Jovan's 500 men of, 139 Poetry, epic. The Serbian national, 54 to 58 Pogacha. The Serbian wedding cake, 38 Polaznik. A Serbian visitor, 50 Pope, the Stephen Tomašević fails to get help from, 8 Porech. The district of, Milo and Miloš arrive at, 105 Porphyrogenit, Constantine. According to, the Serbians adopted the Christian faith at two periods, 28 Pots.